Hello and welcome to my channel Close to the Edge. My name is Pat, where we talk about all things prog rock, classic rock, heavy rock, and maybe even a sticker rock. Stick around, you never know. Today I'm going to do my top 10 favourite songs by one of the greatest progressive rock bands of all time, namely King Crimson. One of the groundbreaking bands, formed in 1968, but got going in 1969 with their debut album In the Court of the Crimson King, and the rest, as they say, is history. Anyway, I wanted to do this video, and we're going to kick off with my number 10, which is Frame by Frame. It's the second track on their 1981 album Discipline. They came back after a hiatus, after breaking up after Red in 1974, and they recruited Tony Levin on bass and Adrian Belew on guitars and vocals, of course with Robert Fripp and Bill Bruford. And this is an absolutely stunning track. Brilliant track. Very similar, I think, to what was going on in the 80s, but it's progressive rock, but with a little bit of psychedelic rock in there, new wave, maybe a bit of art rock. Talking Heads springs to mind when you hear some of this album, but Frame by Frame is an absolute stunning track. And one of the things about King Crimson in the 80s is that they never really deviated away from their progressive rock core. I always found that. A lot of other bands did. Sold out in many respects. Genesis springs to mind. Went absolute rubbish in the 80s, and they are rubbish in the 80s as far as I'm concerned. Absolute rubbish. They finished in 1976 as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, we're not talking about Genesis, we're talking about King Crimson. My number 9 is Pictures of the City, from In the Wake of Poseidon, released in 1970. This album has got an awful lot of flack in the sense that it was very similar to the first album, which in many respects it is. But I think Pictures of the City is probably the best track on the album. It's my favourite track on the album. It's the second track after a short little intro. Brilliant vocals by the amazing vocalist, my favourite vocalist, Greg Lake. Brilliant. It's very jazzy. You know the way it starts off? Do 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 do. Jazz influences there, a bit of jazz fusion involved in there as well. But to me, it's an amazing track. That's my number 9. Pictures of a City. My number 8 is from The Construction of Light, and the track on this, there's 3 parts to it. Lark's Tongue in Aspect, part 4 it goes into, but it's the one track, it just all goes into one, or 3 of them. The musicianship on this is just absolutely incredible. Now, Bill Bruford is not on this album. I think Pat Mascherano is on drums on this one, and it's absolutely superb. And if you see him playing this live, it's just incredible. Incredible musicianship, incredible timing on it. It's just an unbelievable track. A lot of people don't like this album when they rank King Crimson albums. I think it's a brilliant album. Very underrated. When was that released? I have it written down here. When was that released? I think it was 1999 or 2000. 2000. May 2000. This was released. I think it was recorded in 99. But an absolutely stunning instrumental. Brilliant. That's my number 8. My number 7 is from the 1995 album, on the last album with Bill Bruford, and the track is called Room, and the opening track on the album. My good God, what a track. What a brilliant track. Like, think about it, 1995, there was no one else really doing the progressive rock like King Crimson. They weren't really, not that any springs to mind now. Obviously, comments there, I'll be reading the comments, and if anyone thinks of any band that was doing anything as good as this, let me know. But I don't think they were, to be honest with you, and I've heard a lot of bands from the 90s. But this is just Room, instrumental track. Again, I know this is my top 10 songs track. You know, you have to be a bit iffy on whether it is a track or a song, but to me they're all songs, whether they're singing on it or not. But that is unbelievable. If you haven't heard this, because the album is superb, that's Vroom from Track, released in 1995. My number 6 is from their very last studio album, released in 2003. And what an amazing album this is anyway, The Power to Believe. But the track is Level 5. I think it's the second track. And another instrumental track, about 10 minutes long. Like, again, 2003. I don't think there were many out doing what they were doing. They never left their roots, did they? Never sold out. Never once did they sell out, which I admire King Crimson for. This track is just incredible. I remember, we were talking about this track with Kevin there a while ago. I remember I was invited on a radio show back in around 2004, here, a local radio station, and they asked me to pick 5 of my favourite songs. And I picked this one. I remember they playing it. They were all looking at one another. Couldn't believe what they were hearing. Whether they liked it or not, that's another day's work, as they say. But this is incredible. Level 5 from this brilliant album, The Power to Believe. Now, before I get on to my favourite top 5, I just want to thank all my subscribers, new and regular subscribers, for watching my videos with Kevin, Paul and Glenn, and Tom there was on it recently. Absolutely fantastic. And if you do like this video and you like what I'm doing, please hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. All you have to do, it just takes a second. And if you have any other friends that are into this type of music, share it around if you can on social media, Facebook, Twitter and all that kind of stuff, because I really do appreciate it. And I want to just say, shout out there to George, who put me on to a band that I wasn't familiar with, the Manfred Mann Earth Band. Heard bits and pieces, but I never really, and I listened to one of the albums, brilliant. Thank you very much, George, I really do appreciate it. Good man. Anyway, my top 5. Number 5 is the last track on their last album in the 70s from Red, Starless. About 12 minutes long. Of course, you have John Wetton on this, Bill Bruford, Robert Fripp. Absolutely, there's a 3-piece on this, and it's absolutely incredible. Starless. The vocals by John Wetton is incredible. One of the greatest vocalists in the progressive rock genre. Unfortunately, passed away there about 7 or 8 years ago. But brilliant. If you haven't heard this, I'd recommend you go out, listen to the whole album, because Red is on this as well. But Starless, it's haunting, beautiful track, typical of King Crimson. It's just brilliant. Anyway, that's my number 5. We're just going to take a cup of tea here. We love our old tea here in Ireland. Hit the spot, as they say. My number 4 is from Starless and Bible Black. It's The Great Deceiver. It's the opening track on side 1 if you had the LP. Opening track obviously on the CD. This is the 5.1 version, the anniversary version, and it is very jazz fusion-y, proggy rock, and just brilliant track. Again, vocals by John Wetton, brilliant. Drumming, brilliant. I think David Cross is on this as well, actually. He left after this one, but absolutely brilliant. That's my number 4. My number 3 is Lark's Tongue and Aspect, but it's the second part of it. It's the last track on side 2 on the LP, and instrumental track. It's just the playing on this is phenomenal. It is. It's absolutely phenomenal. There's shine on that, and it's just brilliant. Now the first part was brilliant with the opening track, but this part, I remember who was a band that did a cover of this, and they did a brilliant version of it, I have to say. Dream Theater did a version on this on one of their albums, and I can't remember, I think it's Silver Clouds they did it on, and they did a brilliant job of it now, in fairness to them, but obviously not as good as this. But this is just, what more can I say about this track? Just brilliant. My number 2 is the last track on their debut album, which I have on LP, In the Court of the Crimson King, and the track is The Court of the Crimson King. What a brilliant, brilliant track. And you have the lyrics by Peter Sinfield on this, and it's just an amazing track. It brings you, and the mellotron on it is just amazing. It brings you on kind of a journey and musicianship on it. Again, I keep repeating myself on the musicianship, but it's just superb. But this, unbelievable, one of the greatest albums of all time in the prog rock genre. Some people say it started it, some people say it didn't, because you had Procol Harum, The Nice, and a few other bands. I think Van de Graaff Generator started around 68 as well. But this, to me, this is the daddy of them all, really, for creativity and for influence. It influenced the whole genre going forward, this album. That's my number 2, but my number 1 is off this album as well. It's 21st Century Schizoid Man. I think the track is about what happened out in Vietnam at the time, when the Americans were out in Vietnam. But it's like proto-metal, and the vocals by Lake on it are just amazing, and the time signature changes on this, it stops and starts, and so complicated, so influential. I think Pete Townsend of The Who always said this is one of the greatest albums of all time. He says pure masterpiece, and it is a masterpiece, but that track, it influenced so many bands going forward. Like if you compare this debut album to Yes's debut album, it's like night and day. It really is. Or Genesis debut album, night and day. You know, the only one in the prog that would come near it, I suppose, well, it'd be very close to it actually, be Emerson and Palmer's debut album. Of course, that's Greg Lake, who went on to form that band. And maybe Gentle Giant's first album as well, 1970. This is 1969, don't forget that. So, that's my number 1 favourite track by King Crimson, 21st Century Schizoid Man. Anyway, that's that album. I hope you enjoyed that short video, and hopefully I'll see you again all very soon. And one thing I have to say, it's nice to be nice. Always nice to be nice, and also stay safe. That's the most important thing. And I will see you all very, very soon here on my channel, Close to the Edge. So from me, Pat, until I see you the next time, whatever you're doing, have a great day. Bye-bye.